Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to share with you guys what I've been working on this week. If you're on my Instagram, you probably know that I found a little bit of a hyperfixation with making journals from Megan and the Moon's 365 art prompts, and just making journals in general. So this is one that I made yesterday. I posted a short of it here on YouTube, and it is from the tutorial where you use like one piece of cardboard. I think this is technically 2 pieces of cardboard because I wanted more pages. I added handles. There's a little pocket here. And part of why I'm loving this process so much is like, I think it's called chipboard, whatever's in between and the cardboard. But it'll, it's very tactile, very pleasing to be handling these journals. This one, I did a lot of stitching with some Lily Sugar and Cream cotton yarn that I had. And this is some hand-dyed wool yarn from an indie dyer. I think it's Dusty Tree Dye Works. I don't remember. I got it like when I first started learning to knit and crochet. And it is, I believe it is fingering weight yarn or it's sport weight. And that is just a yarn that I can't jive with. So part of what I am going to be talking about here is, has to do with imposter syndrome. I'm gonna show you some of the, I think I'm gonna keep this journal for myself. I haven't decided yet. If anybody really likes it, let me know. And I can part with it, but I was thinking I might keep it. It's bigger than what I normally work in, so I haven't quite decided yet. But if anybody feels drawn to it, let me know. I'm gonna fix my camera here really quick. But if anybody feels drawn to it or they really like it, let me know and we can definitely work something out. This is already listed in my shop. But imposter syndrome, that's like one of the main things I want to talk about today while I share things with you and show another new process that I'm really liking. I have always struggled, I think I talked about this previously, about wanting to learn how to sew. Something that I found when I pick up different hobbies, like when I learned how to crochet, I had it in my mind that because knitting was more difficult, I needed to learn how to knit, and I wasn't actually a fiber artist until I learned how to knit. Another thing is like, if I'm gonna learn how to draw, I have to learn how to draw the proper way. And if I don't learn how to draw the proper way, then I'm not really an artist. I'm not really someone who draws. One of the things that I really like about junk journaling and art journaling is when people use their sewing machines. I like the threads. I really like tactile, like dimension to pages and to little things that you make with paper and with fabric. And I have a hard time working with really small things. My perfectionism gets in the way. I get frustrated. I used a darning needle when I was sewing, like a really big, thick needle. I used that when I was sewing the other journal that I made, and I stabbed my thumb with it. I have the shakes for my years of drinking, you know, every once in a while. Like, I have a hard time holding my hand steady. It just is not an easy process for me. Just a side note, I got paint on the ribbon here, but this was bound with an eco-dyed green ribbon for abundance and adorned with a heart for self-love, because I like incorporating different aspects into the things that I make, especially if they have like a deeper meaning. And then I have a couple trash journals here I'm going to share while I continue talking. But anyways, I had this idea that like every time I taught myself a hobby, which, you know, considering the fact that I was in recovery for addiction and the fact that I was, I had undiagnosed ADHD all those years with like no help, no assistance, no way to mediate it. I was teaching myself these hobbies, and then I was like basically giving into this inner monologue that I wasn't good enough until I reached like some idealized state of perfection in my brain. Now, I'm not saying that that's actually what perfection is. I don't think perfection actually exists. But that's kind of how it is in my mind. I've fallen victim to it in my spiritual process. I've fallen victim to it in my tarot process. It's actually why I stopped reading tarot for other people for a long time. And it's something that social media definitely feeds into when you hear people talk about falling into the trap of comparison, falling into, this inner monologue that says that you're not good enough, that what you're doing is not enough. When, there were so many years that I personally was not creative. And to think that I stopped myself from continuing to be creative because I had some fantasy in my brain that I wasn't good enough at being creative until I obtained like a certain status. This one has a little pocket made out of a security envelope, and I put some neon paint on it, which is fun. I enjoy my neon paints, even though I'm not always quite in the mood for them. The journal I'm making today I splashed some neon paint on the cover of that one. This is another little trash journal. These are little mini journals, and I have them listed currently for, I think, $22. Oh, that's the back. Here's the cover. And I make them like very accessible just because I enjoy making them. And, I know there's some people who maybe want to try this, but they don't have the money to spend on, something super expensive. And, I also like making things that don't require me to have everything like prim and proper and neat and tidy. I like messy things, and it's one of the reasons that art journaling itself has been so liberating for me and has helped me move past this imposter syndrome a little bit, even though I still very much have issues with it. Like even this morning, even today, I have had struggles with it. And so something that I've learned going to therapy off and on throughout the years, and a lot of self-study of psychological texts and spiritual texts, is that I have kind of learned how to engage in positive self-talk. And if reading or listening to audiobooks is not your jam, I know there's a lot of like shorter YouTube videos, and I think even TikTok videos, if TikTok is your thing, available that covers like positive self-talk, affirmations. Reframing is a great method that I use a lot. I write it out in my journal. I talk it through if I'm not in a place where I can use my journal. This one has a similar pocket here, and both of these are kind of small, but I really like the pocket size. Really fun. That's how a lot of my junk journals that I've handmade have been. But I find that some of these positive self-talk things have helped me move past this inner monologue. So here's something that I just made this morning. It's like a little cluster collage. I've actually worked on a couple cluster collages where I stapled everything together, which was fun, but I, kind of giving into that perfectionist idea. I really like the cluster collages that people do of little insertables in their journals where they sew them. They run them through their serger or something. And, I don't have a sewing machine. I talked in another video about possibly getting one. But right now, I don't think that that's feasible for me until I declutter some more. So I decided to start practicing stitching a little bit while I use yarn instead of actually forcing myself to use thread, because part of the thing that I get really frustrated with is trying to like thread a needle. I know there's needle threaders. I also don't like stabbing myself in the fingers quite a bit. So this is kind of like where my attention has been lately, and doing these things that kind of meet me halfway, but also just help me challenge perfectionism and challenge these inner monologues that have kind of kept me away from showing up in my creative practice the way that I wanted to. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing today is sewing a lot of these little clusters. I really like doing the I think that's running stitch, but I don't fully remember. and just playing around. And I really like fabric for texture. Tulle is like my favorite fabric like of all time. And I have these little scraps from making the journals that are really fun. I found stitching that big journal, I found that using the darning needle, I believe that's what it's called, and poking it through to pull through the yarn is just so satisfying, that little poke. It's very soothing, and I'm assuming it's as soothing as like maybe some people find embroidery. Embroidery is not something that is super easy for me, again, because of the small scale. So yeah, that's kind of all I have for you guys today. I'm going to start stitching some more pieces together because, like I said, it has just been really satisfying to, you know, see these little cluster collages grow, and to be able to just make, it's almost like a form of mark making, in that, you know, as I go along, I'm making these really abstract stitches, and it kind of goes off in different directions, and I just find, yeah, I really enjoy it. Like I said, I work with this Lily Sugar and Cream Cotton. I've also used, this is weight 4 yarn, if you're familiar with regular yarn. But I've also used fingering weight yarn, and I think that you could probably, I think weight 4 is about like the biggest that you could get away with. And I just put a double knot in the end so that I can pull it through. It's, I mean, if you know how to sew, then this is not anything new to you. But these big darning needles, I think I got this when I purchased a loom, or when I was purchasing like weaving supplies, because they're easy to do like a tabby weave in between the strands. But one of the things that I found is that this type of needle is easier for me to handle. It's easy to push through. You know, sometimes there is a little resistance, especially if I've like layered up paint like I have here, but it's never anything that I can't manage. So I just, this is not technically a tutorial because this is all very intuitive. So don't think that I'm sharing anything like earth-breaking. I know that there are people who do this type of process. Mine just looks a little bit different because I am choosing to do it in a way, I did that the wrong way. I'm choosing to do it in a way that makes sense for me right now. I am hoping that as my like dexterity and like getting used to working stitches with these bigger supplies, I'm hoping that that will like give me the confidence to try to do that with, you know, the regular embroidery stuff, and possibly moving over to a sewing machine. But I found that my ADHD makes it very hard to learn things, especially if it's very technical and requires a lot of steps or instructions. I kind of need my head to be in the game. I made this really big because I'm attaching 3 pieces together, and sometimes I vary the sizes. I don't really go by anything specific. But I kind of need my attention to be in the game when it comes to learning something technical like using a sewing machine. I think I spent one day kind of hyper-focused on using the hand stitcher I got. I think I got that for my birthday, which is in September, and I was able to take it apart and thread the needle 3 times in the period of time that I was able to stay engaged. And at that point I had to, you know, I had to move on just because, you know, I had to move on with my day. Like I had to make food for my kids, or like something else like needed my attention. And the fact that I was able to spend as much time on it that day is actually amazing. And I have not been able to get myself to focus on it that much since. So I'm trying to add fabric this time. And I know, especially in the beginning, when the yarn is doubled, it's difficult because it's thicker. This is just a little fabric scrap from some fabric I got from Walmart. I don't have a lot of options for craft supplies around here. And I want this to be, I'm not gonna lay this super flat because I want it to be kind of messy. Yeah, see, this is gonna get kind of difficult, so I might not be able to double it up, but that's okay. Part of this is just, like I said, finding what feels good, finding what's soothing. I'm trying to keep this in the screen while I'm doing this, which I'm finding kind of difficult. So yeah, I just wanted to hop on here and share those journals with you guys because they're things that I'm really proud of. They're things I made to challenge myself. I wanted to commend yet again Megan and the Moon's 365 art prompts because it has really given me some of the inspiration and ideas that I have been lacking lately. And I just enjoy sharing things with you guys sometimes, and this is where my headspace is this week. That being said, I have not forgotten about the lives that I mentioned in a previous video. I'm thinking I might be able to go live tomorrow because my kids are going to be staying the night at grandma's. But I need to know, I know I have viewers who are in different areas. I'm in Central Standard Time. I live in the Midwest. So if there is a time that works for you tomorrow, if you're available, let me know in the comments along with your time zone so that I can use the internet to do a cheat sheet and figure out if there are some times that line up for like multiple people. And I will just see what I can do. And I don't know what I'll do yet. I might be doing this. I might be working on something else. I might work in my moleskin. If you have a request that you would like me to work on, I am happy to do that. And I will share this process when it is finished. I'll share like a little image at the end so that you guys can see, but this is a very slow process and I'm sure you guys understand how to sew. Even if you're not an expert, you know, hand stitching isn't super difficult once you get over that initial beginning step. Like I said, this isn't a tutorial because, yeah, that's how I ended up poking myself in the thumb really bad. Okay, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If I don't post again, and if I don't end up going live, why don't you hit the subscribe button if you feel called to, and if you haven't already. If not, that's okay. Thank you for being here. And I invite you guys to share in the comments a process that has been lighting you up this week. You know, even if it's something as simple as taking time with your morning coffee before you dive into your day, or if it's an art journal or journaling process, whatever it is, I'd love to hear about it. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye.